You're winning. You're winning. You're winning. You are winning with another episode of Epic Understanding. I am your host, Coach Love. I'm very excited about the show tonight. You know, this image here says the power of mentorship. And I can't think of another way or a better way to mentor someone than teaching them what you reap is what you sow. That is a very powerful message. Well, one of my guests tonight has taken that to another level. Watch this video and I'll see you on the other side.
When it comes to planting teenagers on the right path of success, CBS's Mark Strassman found a mentor in Charlotte where his essential tools are a green thumb and a big heart.
It's all about attitude.
Even in 97-degree heat, hope flourishes in this quarter-acre organic garden.
When you take it home, share it with your family.
Reggie Singleton, a 60-year-old master gardener, founded the Mail's Place in 2009. He teaches a couple dozen, mostly teenagers, life lessons about getting in the dirt and working up a sweat.
We're not a soft program.
What kind of values can you learn?
Sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping.
Gardening involves nutrients and fertilizer, patience and commitment.
It's not always sunshine and rainbows. Plants definitely take time to grow. It doesn't happen overnight.
Fruits and vegetables they reap, they sell at this farmer's market and replant profits in the program.
You should expect a bounty harvest, especially when you cultivate it and take care of it on a regular basis.
What are you really growing here?
We're growing men.
The real bumper crop is the boys themselves.
Absolutely.
These sweet potatoes, why not?
To bear fruit, that weed is not going to hoe itself.
These are the okra plants right here.
Mark Strassman, CBS News, Charlotte.
Welcome, Reggie. How are you?
I'm doing great, Coach. Thank you. And to the viewing audience, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. What gave you this idea to grow men?
Well, I drew on some of the experiences that I've had early, as well as the time-honored traditions and history of the African experience. And I see nothing more honorable than developing Black boys to be men.
You know what? In American culture, we do not have a lot of rituals associated with manhood, right? But I think it would be a beautiful ritual that one of the things that you did to solidify your manhood is to plant your own garden.
That's right.
Even if you didn't do it for your whole life, that you had that experience of planting your own garden, because it connects behavior with consequence and commitment.
And fundamentally solving some of our persistent issues that we've had regarding food insecurity, but as well as being able to fundamentally be self-determined, self-controlling, and to benefit from the production that agriculture brings. And I think the seed is a great metaphor for manhood. You know, you plant your seed, you inculcate it, you ensure that it is properly nourished and watered and with sunlight and prayers, and you're able to get the fecunded bounty that comes from sowing, and you ultimately reap your harvest. Ultimately in life, you pretty much get what you deserve.
It is just beautiful. And a man has his own seed. He has his own seed. And so it is just so connected to the rhythm of life, what you're doing. I'm just blown away. I'm excited. I'm overjoyed. And tell me the principles that you have, um, that you instill in your boys.
We have three major tenets that we focus on. It is manhood training or mentorship,
Okay.
agriculture and food sovereignty, and then community service, social justice. We instill and inculcate the training and the modeling for them to be upright, to be honest, to be problem solvers, to be good images, and to be solving problems for our community and our people.
Oh, that is 100% beautiful. I love it. I love it. I want to introduce our other guests that we have for tonight who are sharing the platform with you. And I think that they might truly agree with your tenets and then have some of their own. Mike, please
Yes.
introduce yourself and tell us about your history a little bit.
Well, I'm a father and a husband, but I have four girls. But crazy enough, I've spent the last 20 years mentoring men over coffee at the coffee shop down the street. And I love the analogy of planting because I've been teaching men to plant changes in their thinking. Okay, and so what I do is I coach men how to holistically change how they think about life and how life is supposed to work, and what areas of life that we need to be successful in. Most men are just focused on making money. I said, well, look, it's just not about making money. If you don't learn how to lead yourself, you don't have to learn to lead how to lead your family, then learn to lead the community, and then learn to be a leader in our country. You're just going to be who you are and never change.
Mm, very interesting. All right, Ryan.
Well, thank you. I'm Ryan Dunston. I am a father to father, husband, uncle, and son. And I have three boys, actually. So, Mike, I'm sure you have a lot of patience with those girls, but those boys can keep you on your toes as
Right.
well. So, um, kudos to you and for the change, right? Because you're coming at these men from another perspective. So, definitely needed. I'm able to mold minds from a financial perspective. Of course, we're giving them some seeds of life in there as well, walking them through certain failures that they may have had or fears that they may have because of previous failures. But we teach the principles of generational wealth, how to obtain it, how to maintain it, and then ultimately how to use it strategically, and how to pass it down, right? Create legacy and
Right.
just changing. Same principles are involved with it. Of course, we have a little bit more knowledge from the financial perspective, but you still have to use those same principles of thinking in any space of your life. So we're able to come at them from that kind of angle. We just got finished a camp, which was pretty exciting. We made news. That was pretty cool. And those kids learned it was the business of ball with hometown lenders, and we got a chance to teach the kids not just about basketball, but the career surrounding that sport, and how to manage, the funds and pitching, right, which made them speak, public speaking, working together as a team, all kinds of stuff. But to bring a basketball franchise to Baltimore. And that was a pretty cool experience because it was a lot that went into that case study. We were able to pull that off, but change their thinking which is what we were going for, was pretty great. We got some great. It was, real grateful to be a part of that.
So I'm going to say this. Ryan is doing a process that he said, sell the sizzle, not the steak. Has anybody heard of this? Okay. It's a sales technique. And Ryan, what he did was he attracted these beautiful young minds with this idea of basketball.
Yes.
And then he leveled it up. He said, you guys want to bring a basketball team to our area? And so they're like, yeah, of course they were. Okay. And then he got, you know, community leaders and ex athletes and those kinds of fellas involved to take a look at it. So now the boys are really taking this situation seriously, and all of a sudden, their dreams are turning into a reality. Okay. And I think that is what a similarity that I see in everything that is happening with each one of you guys. You're taking an idea and connecting it to a very tangible thing, something that the boys can touch. And I think that is a big reason for your success. Would you agree, Reggie?
Oh, absolutely. You must always link whatever you're doing to solving problems.
Mhm.
And it's just not merely enough um, to create someone that is about themselves, about purely materialism, but it is important that they be, again, multidimensional, um, have balance,
Mhm.
and they be upright. And certainly, in terms of manhood, they're men that are uh, not only protectors, providers, but leaders and builders of the community as well. So they have some level of balance and uh, monies and things that we're inundated with in society that many believe is our measures our success. It is in its appropriate place. There's an old Frederick Douglass quote that says, "It is easier to build strong children than to mend broken men."
Mhm.
And so when we're able to get these young men at 12, and some of that is based on some of the time-honored African traditions, um, we are able to see great outcomes when we're able to see them at 12, when many of them have not experienced some of the more hardcore uh, lives yet. And so to be able to inculcate them and expose them with a weekly manhood training. And then on Saturdays, we do our agriculture. We do, we have a travel, um, we have a travel aspect to we travel regionally, internationally. We've been to Cuba and Ghana. We are scheduled to go to Egypt this winter.
Mhm.
And we're going to a 𝐏𝐻𝐿𝐼 um, Charleston educational enrichment trip in August. And
Mhm.
so providing them with a variety of experiences that helps them understand who they are and what their duties and what their obligations are as men, not just, again, not just those biological parts, but what are their basic fundamental duties and obligations.
Wow, you know what? I'm going to have Mike pick up there. And I want to ask all of you gentlemen about the duties and obligations. But I'm going to put Mike on the spot here because, Mike,
Hmm.
y- you have decided to uh, pour directly into your son-in-laws. And that's duties and obligations. And you told me the other day, you said, I made it a point to begin mentoring my son-in-laws. And for me, that that was the first time I had ever heard a man
Mm,
say that. Now they might do it, but
mhm,
you were so intentional and
mm,
so practical
mm.
about it. And for me, that connects directly to the idea of duties and obligations because who knows if you're actually ready to be a husband.
Right. The truth is, you're not. And the truth is, no matter how much coaching and mentoring you get, you're not going to be ready. But for goodness sake, I thought, man, you know, I stepped into marriage truly not understanding what my role was as a husband. And I did it very poorly for a while, I'll be honest with you. And so my goal here was to take the time, because I made it apparent to all of them that before you asked for their hand in marriage, there was going to be some time of mentorship that was going to go on before you could marry my daughter. And we talked about, and here are basically the three things we talked about. Number one, I wanted to make sure that they were developing and had developed a very positive mindset towards life. In other words, everything that's happening to them, everything, and when I say everything, I mean everything that happens in life is happening for your good. Everything. Okay. Doesn't mean that life always goes well. Doesn't mean that all the things that happens, right, I enjoy. But the truth is, if I step back and I look at it and go, what am I supposed to learn from this? How am I supposed to grow from this? Rather than just developing this negative approach, see, I told you it was going to work. If I step back and say, how can I use this to learn and grow? And believe it or not, in my son-in-laws, they already had things that had occurred in their life that we took a step back and say, okay, that's why. I'll be honest with you. So part of the reason that I wanted to mentor them, because both of their fathers had left early in the marriage. Their fathers both left at a young age. And I go, okay, I certainly don't want that pattern repeated here. So let's talk about that. What did you learn from that? How do you take what you learned and now apply it to your marriage? The next thing we talked about is self-discipline. And when I mentor young men, every one of them thinks they know what self-discipline is. But when I asked the question, well, did you know that self-discipline is doing the things you don't want to do? Now, you do them first. And typically the things we don't want to do, guys, are the things that we are more important to do. And so we talk about what does that look like and how do you become self-disciplined? Well, we talk about developing an amazing morning routine. You don't wait till 10 minutes before you have to be at work to get up. You wake up 2 hours before and you go through and you practice a very purposeful and intentional morning routine, right, that prepares you to be very successful throughout the day. And then the third thing I do, and I've mentored many, many men, and when I ask them, let me ask you a question, do you have a plan for your life? The answer I get almost 100% of the time, coach, is no. I don't have a plan. I say, well, do you have a plan for your marriage? No. Do you have a plan for your family? No. And so what we do is we stop and it only takes a few weeks and we sit down and we map out an amazing plan for the next 5 years. Where do they want to go? Who do they want to become? And then we back up and create some very purposeful goals. And you can imagine the change that occurs in a man who now has a future in mind, a destination where he's going. Rather than going nowhere, now I'm going here. And not only that's where I'm going, but I know how to get there. Okay. And so it just radically changes men's outlook on life and family. So
That's amazing. I love so much about what you said, particularly the idea of having a plan for your life. And it doesn't mean that you're stuck in a box, but because plans can change.
Yes, all the time.
Plans can change and they can be revamped and redeveloped. As a matter of fact, before you got on, Reggie and I were talking about how important it is to have a plan. So that is awesome. Ryan, a big part of your background is when you decided to have a financial plan.
Yes. So, money is a tool, and it's not the end all be all, but it is definitely a tool, and it's a very important one. When you strategically, because the decisions that you make with it can either set you in a hole or it can put you out front so you can thrive. But what I will say is, thinking about money is you have to think about how what are your habits, what are your patterns, right? What's in your blind spots, so that those things don't bleed on the money when you get it, right? So teaching them the spender that they are before they get the money is very strategic, because, and getting them at a young age, right? that 12-year-old age, you know, when you teach them, hey, listen, I don't know if you know, but you're thinking about money this way. And in 5 years, according to your plans, you want to be able to have this amount of money, but you won't because of these amount of wants. Right? And where are these wants coming from? Right? Asking them, inquiring, but then making it realistic. And I think those, you know, of course you have to have the personalities to be able to do that. But the ones who care, and will who care enough about this will, you know, dig in there with them and treat it like a true conversation, which is what it should be. Right? That's what true mentorship is. Right? Just giving them different perspectives on life. Right? Not trying to choose for them. They're gonna make some mistakes. You're there to provide some structure as to how they get out of some of the holes that they will be in, because like you said, you know, life does change things. It's life. It happens to us all, right? And the same person that you are making a 5-year plan as to who you want to become, as Mike referenced, is the same you that's going to manage your finances and have everything to do with that 5-year plan. And how you think about money is going to have a true impact on that 5-year plan, Mike, which I'm sure you're aware of. So we get a chance to start to make some imprints and start to plant some seeds early, because, you know, the things that we're teaching them, how to use money, how to treat money as a tool, and not something that's a part of them, right? You know, and how to be strategic with it, and how to be strategic with a minimal amount, how to obtain wealth and not have to feel like you have to be rich in order to get started in anything, or that you have to be rich in order to feel like you can own something, you know, just changing their perspective, right? Because how would you fight for something that's not really yours? You're not going to give it that much effort. But if you knew it was yours already, you just had to know how to maintain it, because every kid comes out of high school and going into college. It's not going to be jacked up if you have some guidance and some leadership, right? You can buy yourself a house at 21 if you play your cards right, you know. But just having someone there to guide them to those decisions is what I get a chance to do, or what we get a chance to start. And it does, you know, like I said, I'm truly grateful to be a part of this kind of stuff. But I get a chance to get, you know, start to, you know, tiptoe in some other areas of their life too. Specifically when we're talking about what kind of spender that they're going to be, or what kind of spender they are, and why they think that way. You know, we're getting to the, you know, the psyche of how they think about money. You know, and how it affects their lives. And those are the moments where we get chances for correction, which is critical for how they are handling not only current moments, but building upon their future as well.
You know, what I like about what you do is you start at their dreams. You start at what they want, you know, out of life. I love that about your program.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, Reggie, where do you start?
One of the first questions that we ask parents when we enroll their sons is, what are your hopes and dreams and expectations for your son? We know that much of who the children will become has a lot to do with the expectations, hopes and dreams of the parents and the village and the community. We know that in many respects, zip codes and where you live, and of course, other social determinants, like race, being Black, you know, in many respects, we know that even when you make the best grades, even when you have all of the things lining up for you, all the stars are lining up for you, you know, race will raise its ugly head again. But one of the first things that we want to be able to do is, what are the expectations, hopes, and dreams for the young man? We build them up. We provide them a basis of who they are historically, who they are contemporarily, and again, what are those duties and obligations? We provide them opportunities for leadership, but it is raising their consciousness. We really spend a lot of time raising the level of consciousness and undoing a lot of the psychological, mental, emotional, cultural damage that's been done to a lot of these young men. And if you don't address the consciousness, merely providing them with materialism will be short-lived. But the level of consciousness tells them who they are, what are their expectations, what are their duties again. We provide models of successful married Black men who are responsible, who are working every day, and who model those tenets of providing, protecting, leading. And so they all understand that you're not going to just be average, that we are goal setters, and there's a expectation for them to be more than what they are when they came in. We believe it's our obligation to move them further along, you know, so that they will. And ultimately, my goal is that they all graduate from high school. We then transfer them over into either the workforce, the military, business, or and then as you know, work as hard as they can, and around 28 or so, look at getting married, having children, being engaged to the community, and again, spending time with their family, taking their families on vacation, and getting engaged with the community. And if they're able to do that, irrespective of just mere materialism, that we see that as a success.
And so it sounds to me that you build a dream. You build a dream on what life should be like what you can expect for life. It sounds like that's what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We show them. There's so many. There's a myriad of images of men out there, and of course, with the indoctrination and the brainwash that we've had in terms of music and sports and TV and other social media that don't always depict men, particularly Black men, in very positive lights at all. You know, again, they demonstrate a irresponsibleness, not being very masculine, and it's important that we provide them countervailing images of what a successful, upright man is, and it is one who is, again, you know, he certainly has character and ethics, and he works hard, smart. He's a spiritual man. He guides his family, and my order is God, family, and our people and community. And so I don't veer too much, and no matter what the flavor of the month may be, whatever the ratings may say, or whatever may be popular, we don't veer from that. So we are very deliberate. They're a 3 yard in a cloud of dust kind of organization. We don't.
Wait a minute, say that again.
Well, a 3 yard in a cloud of dust. It's an old football expression.
3 yard and a cloud of dust. Okay, all right. And tell me what that means. That's how far you are ahead.
No, it's an old football expression.
Okay.
So a 3 yard in a cloud of dust team would be like the old Alabama Crimson Tide, where they just line up and hit you in the mouth, and they get 3 yards. And nothing fancy, no 80-yard pass,
one step at a
no
time.
trick plays. They just hit you in the mouth, and they keep lining up again and do the same thing. It's based on technique, fundamentals, and persistence. And so you have these 12-yard plays to go 70 yards, as opposed to hit pay dirt, to hit the end zone, as opposed to a 80-yard pass that's all fancy and you're doing your end zone dance. but
Mm-hmm. Okay.
but
3 yards and a cloud of dust. All right. I have to say that's the first time I heard it, but I like
oh,
it.
oh, okay.
It obviously depicts consistency, hard work, and commitment.
Right. It's an old Southern expression, probably.
I'll take it. I'll, I will take it. And I hear you all saying that, 12 years old is the age that you definitely want to start. You want to um, capture someone's consciousness by that age. That's it. Go ahead.
Ideally, I think given what we're dealing with now, I think the ideal time might be catching them as they come out of the womb. I
Okay.
think the earlier experience where we're able to have some continuum of care and support for those families,
Mm-hmm.
particularly
Agreed.
single mothers, I think
Agreed.
we're going to see much better results and results.
Yeah, they
So
will.
12 is a time I think where we get them, and there's still some level of innocence there. But I think the earlier we get them, I think the better. Because if you get them out of the womb, you can encourage breastfeeding. You could the importance of brain development, socialization. There's just so much.
Apprenticeship. Yeah,
There's so much we can do at an early age.
yeah.
I agree. I definitely agree. And I was wondering why you picked that age of 12, but I kind of get it now. And what I think I'm hearing you say is 12 years old is really the latest that you want to get them. Mike, you were chiming in.
I do. Well, I have a young grandson. I have a single mom with a my oldest daughter's a single mom with a grandson. He's 5. And I just took it as an opportunity that God just laid in my lap that I get to apprentice him he's been in our home since he was born. And I never had boys, so I'm getting the opportunity to teach him the way I would wanted to have teach young men if I'd had some. But what I did want to say also is that I don't get to meet with 12-year-olds. All of them, all of the young men I meet with are like Reggie alluded to earlier. They're in their 20s and plus, and he's right. They're broken. But when I meet with them and start mentoring them, like the young black man I met with this morning, bless his heart, he's the definition of masculinity. I promise you, because he's a single dad with 2 babies, a little boy and a little girl, and one of them she's 2, and then 4-year-old, 4-year-old little boy, and he had to bring them to our mentoring session. But to me, he's the epitome of masculinity because he stepped up and he's taken on the role of raising his children when the mama bolted. And he says, Mr. Mintz, I want to do this right. How do I do this right? And I said, well, first we got to learn how to lead yourself. And we got to learn how to say no to the things that you need to say no to, and how to say yes to the things you should be saying yes to every morning. I said, and then you're going to have to be a little more self-disciplined when it comes to your work and your job, because he was struggling to keep a job. And I'm happy to say now that he's had a job and have for over a year, and he's now been promoted. But more importantly, he has a plan. And it makes me a little emotional because when I see him with his babies, he is so intentional about them. But he's just as intentional about every week him doing the things that we talk about. These are the things I'm going to do over the course of this week, Mr. Mintz, because I'm going to keep moving towards accomplishing my plan. I'm going to keep and the reason is because he wants to provide. He wants to provide for his children, right? He wants to give them opportunities that he didn't have. And I go, that's the essence of being a man, is stepping up, right? And giving your children opportunities that you weren't afforded. Doesn't matter why. It just means that you're stepping up and you have a plan to do that. And let me tell you the greatest thing it does, the greatest thing that a plan does, Erica, is it creates respect for yourself. It gives an opportunity for you to respect yourself when you may or may not have been able to do that before. You may have been told you're worthless. You may have been told you're never going to amount to anything. You may have been told that they're never going to let you do that, or you're never going to be able to do that. And when you have a plan and you start to knock off things on your plan and you start seeing yourself having success, you start having huge respect. And people say, no, that's more confidence. I go, no, confidence is far less important than respect.
Yes.
First, you have to be able to respect who you are as a man before you can ever be confident. See, because respect is internal, respect is inside. Confidence is something you portray outward. Okay. But until you get to a place where you respect who you are and where you're going in life, not a whole lot changes, unfortunately.
I like that. I like that. I have a tough question for all of you men.
Sure.
I want to talk about the idea for respect for women.
Ooh, good question.
And for me, it is hard for me to see a man as masculine when he treats a woman, I'm going to use the word carelessly.
Good one.
Carelessly, because part of being a man is having self-control. And if you're using your mouth and your hands for harm, then to me, you're having poor self-management. I am curious, though, how do you navigate with your male counterparts when they are being casually disrespectful in conversation and they're in front of you?
Well, I don't allow it, period. I mean, I don't allow it with the men that work for me. I don't allow it with the men I mentor. I don't allow it with my son-in-laws. I don't even allow it for the people I stand around and hear. Okay, because I think as a man, you have to take a very serious stand against respecting women. And I'll tell you, Erica, I think it really begins in teaching men about expectations. And here's why I say that. Because men believe that loving a woman is, I love her if she does this list of things. Okay? And if she can do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then man, I'm loving her all day long, right? But what the Bible teaches is no. Love is something that you do with absolutely no expectations of anything in return whatsoever. Okay? So and here's the problem with that. I can't love without any expectations towards another person until I learn to love myself with no expectations. I don't have to do this, and this for me to like who I am. I don't have to reach a certain goal. I don't have to reach a certain fame or success. I love who I am today just because of who I am. And a lot of men tell me, Mike, that's not possible for you to love yourself or love people with no expectation of anything in return. I go, absolutely. I can prove it to you in a second. If you're standing there and you're holding a newborn baby, it's your baby, and they just handed you that baby. Tell me what that baby has to do for you to love it. And the answer is absolutely nothing. Just breathe. And that's that's how we're supposed to love. The problem is you have to teach a young man, you have to teach a man how to love himself first. Until he loves himself, Erica, he's never going to be able to treat women the way that you suggest.
Reggie, I can't hear you. You muted yourself, so I'm going to go to Ryan. Ryan?
So, great question. And Mike, I agree with everything that you said. I do have a bit of a different perspective. I come from a broken household. So, I had to unlearn a lot,
Right.
and then relearn, and then build on what I had to relearn. And that process, when you don't have a mentor, can get very lonely.
Right.
And you can end up, drowning in shallow water. And only because you're trying your best to see straight, but when you're in mud, problem is everything's brown.
Mm.
And that's how you end up drowning in shallow water, right? So but you don't have that mentor there to just, sometimes it's just about just, hey, just look over here to the left or look over to the right, that could give you that bubble of air that could just, be the bubble that stands you up out of that mud. Just redirecting in small moments that they have made mistakes, or redirecting in small moments where, because we have such a, we have this fear that we don't have time to make it as perfect as we thought it would be, coming from a broken situation. We've set, unrealistic expectations on our futures. And when we fail, because I've never seen my parents fail, right? And I don't know what that process looks like. I don't know if I have time for it. Not only that, I don't know if I have time for the emotions that come with it. So now I'm harboring. Now we have several problems stewing, where all we need is a mentor to say, hey, you just failed. Let's go through that for a second. We need to process it. You know what I mean? Small things that could stop what man, those are like year cycles, right? Like it's gonna take a minute. Sometimes ruts, it's tough to get out of, only because there's just not enough of a perspective to be given. When you're gonna make mistakes, you're human, but just some direction on how to get out. And this is the thing, right? That I enjoy about mentorship. I enjoy stating emphasis on the how, because it's easy for someone to say, you just have to look at it like this. But when you feel in a certain way, it's hard, right? So how? How do I just make it that way? Like poof, pow? No, let me walk you through how. Right? Let me and then let me brace you through. Let me provide some expectation, right? Let me brace you for some of the things that you're gonna get hit with. As you, healing hurts too, buddy. And let's talk about that, so we can brace you for that as well. Because when you like I said, when you come from a broken household, we're going to make some mistakes. We're going to take some bumps and bruises. We have some wisdom that comes along with it because of the circumstances that we had to come out of. But again, you take some bumps and bruises for sure.
Right.
And if you don't have someone there to just gently say, I know what you feel, not denying that you feel it, right? Like, but instead of me getting angry at you for doing what you did, like, let's explore it so that you can see why you don't have to make that decision again.
Right.
I want to get you in here, Reggie, but I want to move us down the field just a little bit, just to give us a football analogy. I want to dig deeper because there seems to be a fundamental dislike with femininity culturally. Not saying any one of you individually dislikes femininity, but I just noticed with my ear what men do to one another when they want to insult each other. Most common, your mama. Man, you're acting like a fill in the blank, whatever came to your mind, but I can assure you it was female. You kick like a girl, you know, uh, from schoolyard age on. If another man wants to insult another man, they feminize him. And even one of the standard insults is you're an SOB. Well, even in that, they didn't insult the man, they insulted the mother. Okay. So culturally, we seem to be at have a underlying disdain for femininity. Now, it is not healthy. That is not a healthy mindset for masculinity to have a disdain for femininity in itself. But I noticed that. Now, Reggie, you can pick us up here, and you can prevent me from quoting Tupac.
No,
Because that's the next thing
I hear you.
that's going to come out of my mouth.
I think there's the, certainly men and women have a great deal in common. I think there is the ebb and flow. There is some contrast there. And what I've seen is the greater the masculinity, or even the greater the femininity. I'm a man who's been married 32 years, 3 children, which is my greatest honor. But I see the greater femininity, or the more feminine the woman is, it consequently strengthens the masculinity of the man, and he doesn't feel a need to compete. And so, so what we teach our young men is that, society says, well, treat people or respect people who respect themselves. But we encounter people all the time who have no level of self-respect, people respect, group respect, and it's played out, spilled out all over the world. We teach our young men to respect everybody, never underestimate anybody. You respect people who may not even deserve your respect. And so sometimes, men or people may say, society may say, well, look at that person. They're downtrodden, they're halfway dressed, booty, cleavage, whatever, and they don't deserve respect. And so therefore I'm going to treat her I'm going to call her names like thoughts and all this other stuff. Well, we teach and inculcate our young men that they are to respect everybody, because it's really a reflection of him. Not so much that individual, but it reflects who he is. And so to the degree we develop these young boys to be men, we also have elders, and we call visionaries. These are the mentors that work with the young men. But we also do a great job of not only developing the young boys to be men, but developing the men and the young men and the mentors to be what we call Jengas or Mashari. And Jenga is a African term that means this is a keeper of the culture. This is a highly trusted individual who really has exceeded being just an elder. And he, again, is the keeper of the culture and has maintained a level of respect. And this is where we need to get our 30 and 40 and 50-year-old men to move beyond just being an elder or just being an old man, but to be wise, but to be Jengas. And so it is difficult work. It requires persistence. It requires consistency. It requires modeling. And that's why, every opportunity I get, I share my family with the young people that we do, because they need to see it. They need to see those images. And when you have young men where only about 25% of us have a father in the home, or have a mom and dad in the home, to compare to even some of the most difficult days when we came out of enslavement, where we had about 75%, or even in 1890, where we had 90% of our homes had father and the mother in the homes. So coming out of the wretched aspects of Reconstruction and slavery, we were still able to pull ourselves together. So it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. And, we have not yet addressed, there's a really bad echo going on. So guys, I truly apologize for the echoes that are coming from different places. So bear with us. But that said, we as a community have not addressed what we did to manhood in slavery. And unfortunately, one of the reasons why masculinity is broken is because it mutated into something harmful during that time, from all perspectives. Here, the official urban therapist, he says men use feminine insults to prove that the person in question is weak or lower than them. But that reality in itself is mentally saying for a actual woman that she is lower than them. And so I think he is really truly understanding the point that I'm making when men feminize other men as a form of an insult, in general. And quite frankly, it's a very difficult thing to navigate because it is deep, deep, deep within our culture. And then to go back to the comment that you were making about slavery, you and I talked about the Positive Global Masculinity campaign, and we talked about this confused idea of maleness being connected with hostility. And that is not true maleness. That is not what leadership is about. Maleness, masculinity, is about commitment, your idea of reaping what you sow, your idea about leadership and things of that nature. But somehow, people with bad motives have gotten a hold of masculinity and they've run off with it. And that's why I'm so thankful for what you guys are doing because you're bringing it back to what true masculinity is. From my perspective, when you're talking about actual masculinity, it's positive in its own nature, just as femininity is. But the mutation of it, the pop culture version of it, is quite distorted. Mike? Oh, Reggie, go ahead.
If I could just add here too, because and I'm a traditionalist in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Same wife, 32 years, same job, 29 years, same old truck. I don't change a whole lot.
Okay.
And some people believe that even some of the roles, and I'm not talking about archaic caveman type of roles, but
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the roles that men have traditionally provided and women have traditionally provided, I think it gives our community, our village, our families some level of stability. And I think there are some roles that we should not compromise and should not be so quick to discard.
I think that gender roles and performance-based gender roles are healthy. At the same time, we have to allow for flexibility and honor when we are going beyond those roles. Um, Gone are the days where where uh, one parent, likely a woman, has the opportunity to stay at home and simply raise children. That's just not where we are as a society. Sometimes because people don't want it, and then sometimes because it's not possible. Mike, if you have a comment, you have to unmute yourself. Um, but where are we as we go beyond that? Because the reality is, women are working 40 hours, 50 hours a week, just as their counterpart
Right.
is
I
working.
think you have to be very careful here, Erica. And the reason I
I'm
say
listening.
that is I raised 4 girls
Yeah.
in the world that you're speaking of. Okay.
Yeah.
But the issue that you're speaking of is not a new issue. In fact, it's a biblical issue. In fact, it was prevalent in biblical times.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more issue that you're talking about is how we treat the position. I think a lot of the times that men are disrespectful towards women because they're disrespecting the person and not the position. Okay, it's like a lot of times when they say, well, I don't have to be respectful to the president because I don't like him. No, well, no, you do, because of the position that he holds. You respect a father because of the position that he holds. You respect a mother because of the position that he holds. Well, being a woman is a position as well. Okay, and a man. And I think what we've not done is we've just said it's okay to disrespect people. Okay. Because we don't like the people, all right? Or we don't like the way people act. And the problem is you don't get to be respectful to the position, okay? And so I taught my children position, okay? For instance, the teacher. All of my children had problems with their teachers, all of them. But they weren't allowed to be disrespectful. Even when some of the teachers were very irreverent, they got to come home and tell me, and I go talk to the principal. But at the same time, in spite of that, you still were respectful to the teacher. Okay, I've had bosses that I've worked for that were very rude and harmful to people and condescending. But while I worked there, I said, look, I'm going to respect you as a position. But I told him, I'm not going to respect you as a man, though. Okay, and then I found another place to work. Yeah, I think we have to begin to talk again about the position rather than the person. Okay.
Well, I think I am talking about the position. I think you unfortunately had to drop off because of your connection. And as I'm approaching this idea, that's why I gave so many different examples, is that because we seem to have a cultural disdain for the position, for the idea of femininity, particularly when it is used as a insult in general. And it is not that femininity doesn't have its power. I love being a woman. Okay. And there are beautiful things about being a woman. But as I begin to uplift and navigate this idea of masculinity in its actual form, which I believe is positive within itself, what I've noticed is how people abuse, men in particular, they abuse one another with femininity. They use it as a weapon against one another. And this is just, from observation, I notice that it happens in the schoolyard, in teenagehood, and even as adult mature men. It is in the music itself. And I notice how men connect with one another and how they insult one another, and they feminize one another when they want to lower a man's status. And it's certainly not my imagination. I doubt if we're going to completely tackle that idea. I don't think we're going to solve it tonight because we don't we don't have the hearts and minds of everyone in the world. But I did want to get your thoughts on it. Reggie, I'm listening.
I'll just add one other thing, but I'll say that this insulting is a global Western thing,
Oh,
and it's been permeated throughout the world. But I would also add that women themselves use the effeminating of men as an insult too. In fact, one of
yeah.
the worst thing a man could experience is for a woman to insult him and
So,
refer in a feminine way. So it is a people issue. Certainly, we got to deal with it from men, but I think this westernization and that has been again transported throughout the globe, because we see it in other nations now, where we have not historically seen some of, but everybody loves this American culture. You know?
Mm-hmm. So I couldn't agree with you more that it is become a global problem. I couldn't agree with you more that women most certainly uh, do it do it to men. Um, I'm mostly very troubled when men do it to other men because it looks like self-harm.
And we
It's
feel it that way too, right? I mean, I don't want to sit here and act like I don't know what you mean. I just wanted to fully understand all of what you meant, right?
mhm,
Because I agree with you to a certain extent. It is a level of conditioning that's been happening to us that, you know, it's marketed to us. It's you know, in the movies, it's in the songs that you listen to, right? No matter what genre you're listening to, right?
mhm.
The boxing ring, right? In between rounds, who's bringing out the number, right? It's you know, it's everywhere.
Selling
And
cars.
exactly. It's in your conditioning, so it's in your subconscious, which means it starts to make decisions in your blind spots. So you're
Wow, that's worth
absolutely,
repeating.
you're absolutely correct. Yeah, no, it gets in your and it gets in your subconscious. You know, early, right in the developmental stages. What's on you know, the Disney Channel, or what's on Instagram right now? What can any child that has a cell phone that's connected to the internet, like, you know, he that child can get to anything that he wants to look at. And you know, if he's growing up in culture is ahead of itself at the moment, which means culture is going to get to him, guys. And you're right, it does get to him in a certain level of conditioning, and this is one of them. You know, depending on you know, family, you know, curses, or I don't want to get that far but off the
Mhm.
mark, but depending on whatever you're dealing with specifically in your family line, some chains you got to break, some things that are specific to your bloodline, you know, those things go hand in hand, right? Same principles. That's just on a larger level, I think, is what you're explaining when it comes to those things that are resting in not only the fathers, because it's crazy, it's so swift too, man. It's just like yesterday, I thought I was a child, and now here it is, and in other moments where I'm on a level one of another level, and I feel small again. I feel like a child. I feel like I'm growing all over again. I feel like I don't know anything, and I feel insecure because I don't know anything, and I haven't figured this level out all over again. It's like going into the third grade or the fourth grade when you don't know what to expect, you know. So, you know, no, like I do. I agree with you. But what I will say is, in mentorship, being able to correct those things in smaller moments makes it more, not only it makes they can receive it when you're in smaller moments, right? Not in a lecture, or not in a conversation that's gonna make them doze off. But while you playing basketball, I was gonna say hooping because I'm getting in
Mhm.
for a state right now. But while
Yeah.
you're playing basketball, you know, and they make a decision on the court that resembles the same principles that, you know, that has to do with, oh, you know, hey, you down on another player because of what he said. That's the moment where you can correct that situation and make it relatable immediately.
Mhm. Mhm.
Small adjustments, and they'll mean something. That's how we build future anyway. Small moments, but we just have to trust the fact that the same principles that it took a long time for us to be this. It took a long time for us to have this level of conditioning, so it's going to take a long time to get out. And I do believe those things are changing, right?
Mhm.
The things that happened to us in slavery, I'm gonna tell you now, man, it was difficult to consume and understand. It's difficult to put into words some of the things we had to go through, right? But what I will say is this: difficult times produce very strong generations, and I am among some of the, you know, a plethora of black men who are sick of struggling, and no matter what we have to go through to continue to go forward and break levels and generational, first man to graduate in my family, right? First one to accomplish certain things, boom, boom, and boom, and just keep knocking things down and showing these things to your kids to create that generational healing, not only financially, but just, sheesh. As I try and figure out how to be a father, I'm thinking to myself, man, you know, I grew up without one. I'm kind of thinking that actually made me a stronger father, right? Not mimicking something, right? Not turning into a bad model, but just me having what do they say? Shoot for the stars, you land by the moon. Now it's traumatic, that whole process, the way that is, right? I'm definitely summing it up, but it's sort of what it's like. You shoot for the stars, you fall to the moon. The fall to the moon is traumatic, but then when you look around, you're like, all right, the moon is not so bad, right? Once you start to heal a little bit, but having someone talk you through that fall, having someone talk you through your life, man, just to provide real perspectives and real live moments makes it not only relatable, but obtainable, and they can receive it easily. It's easier to swallow when I'm able to show you on a basketball court as opposed to me sitting you down when I met you at your house on your porch. And, you know, it's a knee-to-knee conversation. Your mom said you were struggling in school type of a thing. It's me getting to, because that kid goes everywhere that he is. So the same person he is on the basketball court is going to be the same kid he is in the classroom. Just going to know how to get to him.
You said so much. I mean, I'm going to watch this whole thing, right? But I'm going to rewatch that that last part that you said. It was just so good. We have a question here that's coming in from the audience, and there's a lot. I don't even think that you could really answer succinctly, truly, why or why not. But I'll read it. Here we go. Do you believe that women are weaker than you physically, mentally, and spiritually? Why or why not? Now, the first part of the question, I think is pretty easy, but the mentally and spiritually, I think is a tough question. And I would almost really say it depends on the woman and depends on the man.
Well, I'll talk to you specifically from my relationship. I've been with my wife for 16 years. We've been married for 5. And, through some bumps and bruises early on, we had a child early on. We were still kids, basically, right? And, one of the biggest things that I've learned as we healed together, we grew together, we forgave each other, and it was hard. It was hard to go through some of the things that we had to endure for one another. But in the process, I learned how to endure for her, how to endure some of the mistakes her father had made, and everything that goes into that. But flip side to that, she's been able to be there for me as well. Right, she's been the yin to my yang. She comes in strong where I may come in weak. There's Mondays where I might come in with 75 and she's coming with 25. But then there's the Thursday where she's coming with 89 and I'm coming with 11. Right, there are things that she gets me through. She's better at organization, so she's better at our businesses than I am when it comes to the admin portion. I'm better with sales. I'm better with communication. It's identifying each other's strengths and weaknesses and then being there for those strengths and weaknesses, right? That's us healing and loving each other throughout healing. And I think that where the ways that I'm weak and she comes in and fills that gap, and then the ways that she's weak and I come in and fill that gap, it's easy for me to answer in this way. She has strengths in certain areas of life that I need, which is why I married her. And then I have certain strengths in life that she needs, which is why she married me. And some of the things that I've done in the past, and then some of the same things that she's done in the past, were not strong enough to break that realization. There's something about you that you have that I need, right? And I'm grateful for that because not every man gets that, right? But what I will say is we've learned a lot during those processes, a lot of humility, a lot of sacrifice. And when I say sacrifice, I'm not talking about tangibles. I'm talking about sacrificing your own feelings, right? right? That's hard to do, right? Or allowing, right? Allowing is hard. Allowing someone to be wrong in the moment to get a greater good out of a certain situation is hard to do, fellas. It's a certain level of humility you got to go through in order to get that patient, right? But what I will say is her strengths, when they save me, I really do feel those things because I'm scared to death in my moments. As a man, I'm not going to tell you that on my level 1 of any situation, new endeavor, new goal, new whatever, I am scared because I'm normally uncomfortable because I'm trying to get better. And if I feel like fear is a natural, feeling to any new process. It's an unknown. So you have to brace yourself for something, right? You're not human if you don't feel any kind of fear. Now, doing it anyway is one thing.
Right.
But having, you still feel it. And, when she comes in hand and she comes in a way that I forgot, or maybe she was just leading in her areas and in her strengths, man, she comes in and saves me sometimes, man. They're critical saves with all that we have going on,
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. It seems that you have something that you want to share, Mike, on that subject.
I was enjoying his answer, actually.
It was a very good answer. I think I just have to
the
say,
way I would hope that everyone would answer. I think typically when that question is asked, it's meant to divide. Usually, I've heard that. I've heard those questions asked before. My wife and I just celebrated 45 years of marriage, and we didn't get there because neither one of us had any strengths. Okay, much like Ryan alluded to, there are areas that my wife is a superhero when it comes to some of the things that you have to deal with in marriage. Okay. About halfway through our marriage, I was ready to pack it in and leave. And my wife said, no, we're not going to. I'm not giving up and you're not giving up, and convinced me that our marriage was worth saving. And we put in the hard work, and we worked through that. And because she was stronger during those moments, we've now experienced 20 years of the most amazing happiness we've ever experienced in our entire lives. Because she was stronger at that moment. I will tell you, there's times when she's had to deal with death or other serious issues that she's just broken down. And had I not been there to hold her up emotionally and hold her up, sometimes even physically, she'll tell you she wouldn't have made it. Okay. So, and I think Ryan was right that, that you don't really say I'm stronger physically and she's stronger mentally. No, in every given situation in life, especially in marriage, it's who's going to step up today. Okay, my husband's struggling, so I get to step up. Oh, my wife is struggling, so I'm going to have to step up. And so you really, in our marriage, we've just taken turns whenever it was timely. We've stepped up and held each other up. Okay. I'll tell you that my oldest daughter went through some serious life here recently, some serious life. And it affected me emotionally, almost to the point I just couldn't deal. And my wife walked me through how to think and how to feel and how to talk, and got me through the other side of it. And on the other side of it, Erica, I have a little amazing 5-year-old grandson. And so there were times when I've walked her through some similar things. But, Brian, can I just stop and say for a minute that it was very refreshing to hear a young man like you talk about marriage, talk about your wife, and talk about your life the way you did. It's very refreshing to hear those kind of things come out of a young man's mouth. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
and I think that is within most men to have that ability to think and to feel that way. We just have to pull back, honestly, from the culture in order to have that perspective. We literally have to start to get people in general, but because we're talking about men, we're going to have them think about maleness, manhood, and masculinity for themselves and for their very own life.
Right.
I'm going to share a quick story. My grandparents lost a son. And in the time of when they lost my uncle, my grandfather, who is a very strong, beautiful, amazing man, um, broke down and he went a bit inward. But on the day that they buried their son, my grandmother was able to carry the family on and keep up with traditions. Um, for that time period. She was able to emotionally and mentally lead the family during that time period where he was struggling. So, therefore, I really agree that it is a partnership, it is a dance, and you are holding one another up on
Right.
a regular basis. And to be biblical, two are better than one.
Mhm.
For when one falls down, the other one can pick the up.
Yeah.
So, um, and then it also says that a quarter three is not easily broken, but maybe you don't have a quarter three. Maybe you don't ever have children in your family, but you do have the opportunity to have one another. And I think that is a beautiful thing. What a great, great pleasure it has been for me to hang out with you, gentlemen. Audience, I'm going to keep these guys back and we'll powwow a bit behind the scenes, but I would like for these guys to give you their last words. Reggie, I am going to start with you. If you don't mind, please give us your last words.
Okay, want to thank you all again, and just wanted to add one final comment too. The the whole institution of socializing men and women, for that matter, was broken, and it was necessary for us to remain enslaved, um, even when the chains were removed. And so it's necessary that we reclaim the manhood and the womanhood training, manhood, womanhood training, to again reinstill many of those time-honored traditions. Um, there's an old African proverb I would close with that says that when the boy is not initiated into the village, he will burn it to the ground merely to feel its warmth. And so in some cases, we're seeing the village being burned down because our
Right.
young people are not being brought in,
Right.
engaged, and developed, and they're angry.
Right.
And so we must not wait until they burn the village down
Right.
and
Very
be
well said.
proactive.
Well said.
Thank you, man.
Excellent. All right, Mike.
I think we have to be very careful. Um, there's a lot going on outside your home. There's a lot going on outside your marriage. There's a lot going on outside your family.
Mhm.
And if you're not careful, you allow the outside world to infiltrate and infest your marriage, your family, and your home. Okay. With a lot of the things that they're thinking and things that they're saying. And that's why I think I've taught my children, look, just because something is happening outside doesn't mean that we allow it inside. Okay. And it's even true personally. Just because there are things that other men do doesn't mean that there are things that I do. Okay. Because there will always be things that are outside your home, outside yourself, outside your marriage, that are there to do nothing more than to destroy you, destroy your marriage, and destroy your family. It's there. It's there purposely to destroy those things. Okay. And that's why I think it's so important for men to be incredibly intentional, right? And purposeful about the things that you allow your children to do, the things you allow to infest your home, the things you allow yourself to listen to and be a part of. Okay. I've had to almost turn off everything that I get to listen to because it's very difficult for me to escape the things that want to infiltrate my mind and my thinking. Okay. And as Napoleon Hill said, look, as you think, so are you. Okay. And so we have to be very, very, I think, more intentional about what we allow to come into ourselves, into our own thinking, into the thinking of our family.
Excellent, excellent. All right, Reggie. I'm sorry, I'm not Ryan. Ryan.
Well, you know, I'm really big. I know everyone's gonna make mistakes, and to every a boy growing into a young adult man, and father, you know, whatever the case may be, new career, new goal. I just want you to always to keep in mind, you know, whys matter. They are the things that are gonna power you through when you don't have the willpower to get through.
Amen.
And if you know why you got to keep going, that normally will make you do what you got to do. All right, that's number one. Number two, love endures, right? And there's more strength in submission than you thinking, because if you have pride and it's controlling how you feel about a circumstance that needs your silence and understanding, then you can't think when you're feeling. You can't. And if you just submit to the moment, allow whatever the moment is to have its way. And if I can teach you why, considering that not to be a lost argument, lost time, right? Emptiness, whatever the case may be. If we can walk through those emotions together instead of acting like you don't have them, then we can get some strategic things done in your life, and you'll start to see the tangible proof almost immediately, pretty much during the next argument, right? Or the next challenge, or the next goal you have to accomplish, or the way that you're beginning to think about whatever it is you're going to be doing in life. You apply those principles, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna come on top. You know. So just make sure you stay low, strength and submission. You know, keep going, man. Just keep going. Make sure you got a why connected to your goals.
That's just beautiful. Oh, family, it has just been wonderful hanging out with these powerful, active, and committed mentors this evening. You know what? We really barely, scraped, touched the iceberg or scraped the iceberg. Is that how you say it? Anyway. Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you for the help. But there is so much, really. There is so much to talk about. To be very honest, I'd like to have these gentlemen, maybe a few others, come back, because I really want to talk about how slavery affected manhood, both from being a slave and from being a slave owner. I think that'll be a interesting and a scary conversation, to be very honest. I think we'll have to be brave to get through it. But that said, for now, I think we will end where we started, because you do reap what you sow. Bye-bye for now.
When it comes to planting teenagers on the right path of success, CBS's Mark Strassman found a mentor in Charlotte, where his essential tools are a green thumb and a big heart.
It's all about attitude. Let's just
Even in 97-degree heat, hope flourishes in this quarter-acre organic garden.
when you take it home, share it with your family. It can.
Reggie Singleton, a 60-year-old master gardener, founded the Males Place in 2009. He teaches a couple dozen, mostly teenagers, life lessons about getting in the dirt and working up a sweat.
We're not a soft program.
What kind of values can you learn?
Sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping, sowing and reaping.
Gardening involves nutrients and fertilizer, patience and commitment.
It's not always sunshine and rainbows. Plants definitely take time to grow. It doesn't happen overnight.
Fruits and vegetables they reap, they sell at this farmer's market and replant profits in the program.
You should expect a bounty harvest, especially when you cultivate it and take care of it on a regular basis.
What are you really growing here?
We're growing men.
The real bumper crop is the boys themselves.
Absolutely.
These sweet potatoes, why not?
To bear fruit, that weed is not going to hoe itself.
These are the okra plants right here.
Mark Strassman, CBS News, Charlotte.